All right, counting down to the Final Four. The women, by the way, go tomorrow night, their Final Four. And they've got 3 1s and a 2. Ironically, the favorite to win it all now is the 2.
Yeah.
Let me guess. UConn? UConn. It's crazy.
You know, it seemed like for a minute that Gino, was he ever going to win another one?
Yeah. Well, he's got to win it still, but he's been amazing. And I think he's been to the Final Four 16 of the last 17 years, even though it seems like South Carolina and other programs are sort of taking over the top billing. He's still there.
He's almost Dabo. Is that fair? Like Clemson still, I mean, they were in the playoffs this year.
That's a good point.
I mean, they were in the playoffs in 19 and got run, but
For the record, that is the nicest thing Lance has ever said about Dabo.
Compared to Gino Ariama. Let's talk to Dalen Cuff, ESPN college basketball analyst, with us now on the Shannara Hotline. What is up, Dalen? How are you?
Good to be with you guys. Look, Clemson love was surprised that I just heard right there, but I think you guys feel even better about him than some Clemson fans when you talk to people in South Carolina. They're a little salty.
No, not this guy. Not Lance.
I give him props for what he's been able to do, Dalen. I mean, what he created at that program. He's just always been hokey to me. But the guy obviously knows how to coach. And, you know, my point was, although Clemson is still really good and very relevant in the ACC, it doesn't seem like they've been really threatening to win a championship. And UConn has been kind of that team that's been hovering around. And it just seems like he hadn't won a championship in a while.
Well, he hasn't. And I do think he's still – I think what your point is, and a lot of the Clemson fans have angst about, is that lack of national relevance. I mean, the gap between being the 12th seed in the CFP and the teams in the top – not the top 4 seeds, the top 4 teams, let's say that, was a massive chasm. And I think that's the difference in closing that gap right now for Clemson.
Yeah, but
it doesn't seem easy.
You heard him say right there, being relevant in the ACC. We sort of have done that in basketball this year, too. We sort of have pushed – Duke's really, really good, but the ACC. I've now seen Duke in person after they beat Alabama. I was there in Newark. I know we're going to talk Auburn and Florida and all the other teams in a second, but this Duke team, their defense looked unbelievably good. Is Duke the team to beat, in your opinion, in San Antonio?
I think they are, just because we've been saying this for a while. Duke is the most talented team in the country, but there was 2 hesitations there. And I think when I talked to you guys a couple weeks ago, that this one still is relevant. They haven't played in a close game, really. Speaking of Clemson, that was the last close game they played in. They lost at Clemson. They lost to Kentucky and Kansas. That go back to November. I mean, obviously they play Auburn in a relatively tight game, but I'm talking plays have to be made, crunch time, less than 2-3 minutes to go, 4-point game, 2-point game, how they react. We haven't seen that. They are the most talented team. They're playing that way. When we had the bracket, there was questions around Cooper and Malik Brown. Both are answered. Cooper's 100%. Malik Brown is back in the lineup, so they have their full complement of players. And that Alabama game, we talked about a lot on ESPN Live, ESPN Bet Live the day of the game. Alabama coming off 25 made threes was insane. But part of the problem there was BYU and Kevin Young. He's done a great job this year. I just didn't understand their game plan. They were going under ball screens. They were helping off of shooters. They were allowing Alabama to play their game. Duke didn't do that. Duke has the positional size at every position, so much length and versatility. They switch everything, and they can contain the ball, and they weren't going to help, and they were going to make you score over length. We saw Auburn do that to Alabama the first time they played to great success, and we saw a Duke team do that again. Now, Houston presents a different challenge, but Duke is the most talented team. They're the deepest team. They can hurt you the most ways offensively. But the physicality Houston plays with, how hard they defend, how hard they're going to test you in the offensive rebound, and if that game is tight late, how they respond is yet to be seen.
Dalen Cuff with us, the ESPN college basketball analyst. He's on the Shannara Hotline. If you could do a blind taste test, all right, and I could just show you Duke basketball, but you don't know if it's a John Shier or a Coach K, could you tell the difference, and if so, how? That is a weird way of me asking how much has Shier changed. I should have just asked it that way.
It's a great – I like your analogy. Good question. Made me think a little bit more about it. Would you be able to tell? I don't think so, because Duke is, at least this Duke team, because it was built around defense first and foremost. I mean, Coach K, we talk about all the offensive players and the great players they've had, but still they were disruptive defensively. They imposed their will at times defensively. This team doesn't turn you over as much or aim to turn you over as much, so maybe that's a little bit different. They're maybe not out in passing lanes as much as Coach K's teams at their best would have been and wanted to be. But this group is able to defend, as you said, in a very, very stout manner that creates many, many problems for you. They also rebound the ball while they've got good rim protection. Offensively, where I think they are similar, and this is what John learned from Coach K, or just saw that this is how you should coach the game when you have supremely talented players. I don't know why in college basketball we can run a set, or you run an action and you see success, and the next play, or you see a mismatch created, or you see an opportunity created, the next play, you don't just run it again, or run it again, or run it again, like you see in the NBA. They will beat you up until you adjust. Duke, at times, if they see an advantage, they will continue to push that advantage. They also will get their best players the ball in the right spots and play through them purely. He did that, whether it was, you can look back at Paolo Banchero and how they're isolating him, Jason Tatum with Coach K, and how at times they use Cooper Flagg when they use him as ball screens as a point forward. When they play through him on the empty side ball screen, they'll do a lot of different things where it is focused purely on him. And I do think just because you have the talent doesn't mean you maximize the talent and get them the ball in the places and the spots they need to have it, and the guys around him be successful. So that's where I think Coach Shier has really taken that and understood that from Coach K, and that is without a doubt how they kind of function at times, is we're going to play through our best players until you prove, in our best actions, until you prove you can stop it.
So I asked your colleague Seth Greenberg a couple of days ago this question. Now, I think he misunderstood it the way I asked it, and I just let him roll with it. He went Rucker Park because I said if you are drafting one of these players in San Antonio, like you get the first overall pick, who is that guy? And I made the mistake of saying playground-like, and he was like, well, if I want this guy at Rucker Park, and he went off on that whole outdoor basketball. So I just let him roll. But you know what I'm saying? If you could have one of these players for the next 2 games, who is it?
What was his answer? Was it Pettiford? Was it Clayton?
Well, he went Clayton because he was like, man, he'd be so good at Rucker Park. You know, what's y'all's great outdoor place that people play in Birmingham? And it went a whole other direction.
It's too hot in Birmingham.
Just let him roll with it. But he went Clayton. And that might be your answer.
I figured. I mean, in terms of, well, this is the thing. Like, you're saying you want the player that I want to draft first that gives me the best chance to win the game.
Yes.
That is a challenge, but I think it is probably. I'll disclose this. Johni Broome was my player of the year nationally based on what he did. But if you're giving me a player to pick to win these 2 games, I'm probably taking Cooper Flagg. And it's a tight call, but it is the fact of how many different ways he can hurt you on the offense side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, what he does for their team both ways. Not to say that Johni doesn't do the same thing. I just think Cooper can present some unique challenges, as does Johni. It's a tough call, but I think I would lean to him in this spot, given the level of versatility, why I voted for Johni as National Player of the Year in terms of the Wooden Award, was his ability to succeed in those spots with a tougher schedule over the length of the season. So it sounds like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, and I get that. Your audience is like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, Johni has shown us, and I think basically what I'm saying is Johni has shown us through the course of the year what he has done. I'm still betting on Cooper and a little bit of potential, that in that close game, that he has learned how to close games. He's learned, or he's more comfortable in those late game scenarios. He may not be as easy to attack defensively as he was 3, 4, 5 weeks ago to get himself in foul trouble. How he can impact the game, I think I would lean toward him as the first pick. But it is very tight. The other piece I would add to this, too, if we are talking about the scenario we are in right now, Johni seems healthy, but he did get dinged up the last game. So, I mean, Bruce Pearl said he didn't practice the other day. I'm sure he's going to go. He's going to be good. But is he fully 100%? I don't know.
We do expect him back on the court in a closed practice today in San Antonio, and then we'll see him move around in the open practice tomorrow as our coverage continues in San Antonio. I wanted to ask you, I was also at that game at Neville earlier when Florida beat Auburn, and the Florida length seemed to bother Johni a little bit. Talk about that a little bit. Does he struggle with taller players, and does Florida have the size to run at Johni?
It's not just the size with like a guy; it's the depth. And there's 4 dudes. Like that's problematic when you can run fresh bodies, and he's got to continue to perform on both sides of the ball. And remember, they tax you offensive rebounding as well. And that was one of the first times we saw Auburn really struggle defensively. Florida's able to get in the lane. I think their 2-point percentage was like 58, 59, 60%, which is obviously not very good defensively. They also shot it well from 3. So they were getting paint touches, kick out threes. They were getting offensive rebounds. They were playing their game in their terms. So everybody, yes, struggles with length. I think it's the depth of it too. And the physicality of some of these guys. They can move with him. And whether it's Hauk or Condon, hand locking, getting healthy. Chinaloo maybe a little less so. Really fine being on the perimeter with him. Like they're totally comfortable guarding out the perimeter, making sure he's not getting open, like step in wide open threes, which we know he can make. He can even mix them off the dribble, but they can guard him out there. When they get in post with him, they can be physical with him and contest his shots, try to keep him off his left hand. So yeah, when you can run different bodies at him, it changes the equation.
Dalen Cuff, the ESPN college basketball analyst, for a few more minutes on the Shier hotline. Is there any advantage Houston gets from having played 2 games in the football stadium setup, going to the Alamo Dome? Do you think any of that carries over for them?
It's an interesting question. I think that matters based on the venue. And for full disclosure, I've never seen the Alamo Dome set up. Obviously, Spurs play here for years. It has a better basketball sightline from what I've been told. I'll see it tomorrow. Basketball sightline, basketball experience than some of these other football stadiums that are converted. But I think that Houston's experience in this tournament and the players that have had success and the way they've kind of had success in this tournament, I do think last year plays a little bit. Remember, Duke did knock them out, and if Jamal Shead doesn't get hurt, I don't know if Houston loses that game. That's a first-team All-American goes down and kind of changes the equation of that game. Those guys remember that. Kelvin Sampson remembers that. I think that plays a little bit, but it's a fair question. I do think the Alamo Dome, like you said, is a better setup, so I don't think it'll have as big an impact, but we'll see.
So we are going to have a first-time national championship head coach. Who's got the coaching advantage?
That's a good question. I do think, obviously this is Todd Golden. This tournament was his first ever wins in the NCAA tournament. So I think there's an inexperience factor there, but Todd's a great coach, great young coach, and has done really well. And bear in mind, I think he gets overlooked too, that with Texas Tech and JT Toppin, like with 2 minutes, 50 seconds, they were down 9. He called a timeout, their last timeout, and said, he's done this at USF for years. This is an analytics-based guy. He said, we're going to go foul right now. Now, his team didn't execute. They didn't foul Toppin. If you go back and watch, they missed the foul on him, and they got Darian Williams. And Williams missed the front end of a 1-on-1. They come down to the 3. The next possession, they do foul Toppin early. We were still in the 2+ minute mark. Most coaches don't foul that early or that strategically about who we're going to foul. Let him catch the ball. He goes and misses. So Williams and Toppin will remember those missed free throws for the rest of their life. And it was because of a good coaching decision that gets executed down the stretch by his team in some big shots. So I think that although Todd is inexperienced and Jon Scheyer inexperienced at this level, it's not like it's a coaching hindrance. I do lean toward experience. Bruce has been here before in this level. Kelvin, has been here at this Final Four. Has not won the thing. I would say the coaching advantage, as far as comfort, this is what we do, and the culture of the program. When things get tough, I would lean towards Houston. And there are huddles whenever Kelvin Sampson will yell at his guys. It's like, this isn't even about X's and O's. It's about our culture. And what that means is we're going to be tougher. We're going to defend. We're going to rebound. And we're going to play with a force and a fierceness that most teams do not see consistently for 40 minutes. If you can set that tone and you can rely on that and you can lean on that, and then you have the X's and O's where he's very good in that regard too, let's not poo-pooing that at all. I would slightly lean toward Kelvin, but these are really 2 exceptional coaches that have been around for a while, and Bruce and Kelvin, and 2 exceptional young coaches, and John and Todd.
When I was a kid, I always thought when you referenced somebody as Robin to Batman, that was so insulting because I didn't think Robin lived up to the stature.
He's the clear number 2.
Robin seems soft to me growing up.
Clear number 2.
Sidekick seems to be an insult.
Yeah.
So I'll say running mate. Each team has its big star. Who is the best the best running mate? And I saw Knipple with there in Newark, and he was amazing that night against Alabama. Who's got the best running mate with the face of each of these programs?
Also, a good question too. I think that honestly, when I look at Houston and Auburn in particular, and Houston, bear in mind, doesn't have a first-team All-American in this Final Four. The other teams each have one. I think they can do it by committee. Crier's their best shooter, we know that, but Sharp's making plays. Miles Uzan is the most improved player in the country. So Crier may be the Batman to your question.
Yep.
But that Robin he's not really a Robin. Like Uzan is like he's really, really good. But in terms of like a number 2, I mean, because I don't think Johni has a true number 2. It's different guys in different games, and different players step up. And Florida is the same way. Clayton sometimes it could be Martin, sometimes it's Richards, sometimes it's Condon. I think the most obvious 1-2 punch is Cooper and Kahn to Knipple. So to answer your question, it is Kahn, but I think that's cheapening the rest of the guys, because I think their other teams have some dudes that can really make plays. That's the best part of this Final Four, guys, is we got the 4 best teams, and we got the 4 deepest teams, and we got really great coaches, and I think great matchups. So Knipple would probably get the lean there, but it's almost by a process of elimination, because the other teams I don't think are really relying on those 2. Like Duke needs Knipple and Cooper to probably play at a very high level to beat Houston. I don't think Houston has to have Crier and Uzan play their best game, because Roberts can impact the game in different ways. Sharp could make threes. Not to say Proctor can't, It's just how they run their offense, how they play. Those two dudes have to be really good, I think, to beat Houston.
I think Maverick and Goose might be the play there. Maverick and
Oh,
Goose.
there we
good.
go.
I like
There we
that.
go.
Yeah.
Crockett and Tubbs?
Yeah.
I thought Crockett
That's
and Tubbs were even.
Yeah, I almost went Calvin and Hobbs.
Calvin and Hobbs. I don't
Because
know
I
if
couldn't remember Crockett and Tubbs.
Crockett and Tubbs.
Yeah.
All right, Dalen Cuff. Follow him on social media at Dalen Cuff and see his coverage on ESPN from San Antonio all week. Thank you very much for the time, Dalen. Always great catching up.
Thanks, fellas. Be well.
All right, buddy. Take care. He is with us on the Shonara Hotline.